Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. A huge, warm hello to all you fantastic viewers joining us today. Seriously, thank you so much for clicking and being curious about the amazing little details that make you, you. Before we dive into the incredible world right at your fingertips, sending out the biggest virtual hug and all the positive vibes your way. Wherever you are, whatever your day holds, I genuinely hope you're feeling fantastic, full of energy, and staying wonderfully healthy. May you always be blessed with strength, joy, and a deep sense of wonder for the world around you and within you. Okay, let's zoom in, weigh in, on something truly unique to each and every one of us. What makes each person's fingerprint completely unique? Those swirling ridges and valleys on the tips of your fingers aren't just for gripping your phone. They're a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, a biological signature unlike anyone else's on the planet. Let's explore the fascinating science behind why no two fingerprints are exactly alike. Imagine your fingerprints as incredibly intricate, raised patterns etched onto the skin of your fingertips, palms, toes, and soles. These patterns aren't just random squiggles, they're formed by structures called friction ridges. Think of these ridges like tiny mountain ranges on your skin, designed to increase grip and sensitivity. Now, the core reason why yours are utterly unique comes down to a perfect storm of factors happening deep within your developing body before you were even born. It's a story of biology, physics, and a little bit of beautiful chaos. The magic starts while you're still a tiny embryo growing inside the womb, specifically during the first trimester, roughly between weeks 10 and 24 of pregnancy. This is when your skin layers are rapidly forming and differentiating. The layer responsible for fingerprints is called the basal layer, which sits between the inner dermis and the outer epidermis. This basal layer grows faster than the layers above and below it. Imagine it like a sheet of rapidly expanding material sandwiched between two slower growing sheets. This creates pressure, a lot of pressure. As the basal layer stretches and buckles under this internal stress, it starts to fold and wrinkle. But this wrinkling isn't random like crumpling a piece of paper. It's influenced by a complex interplay of forces unique to your developing body at that exact moment. Think about all the things swirling around that tiny developing hand, the exact tension in the skin tissues, the precise rate of cell growth and division in different areas, the pressure from the amniotic fluid surrounding you, the position of the hand itself, even the tiny movements you might be making. All these factors act like invisible sculptors, pushing and pulling on that stressed basal layer as it wrinkles. It's a bit like how wind and water create unique patterns in sand dunes, or how no two snowflakes form identically because of subtle differences in temperature and humidity as they fall. In your case, the sculptors are the unique biochemical environment and physical forces present only in your mother's womb during your specific development. Genes play a crucial role too, of course. Your DNA provides the broad blueprint. It instructs your body to make fingerprints and influences the general types of patterns you might have, like whether you'll have mostly loops, whorls, or arches. We'll get to those in a sec. It's why identical twins, who share the same DNA, often have very similar fingerprint types. But here's the critical point. Even identical twins do not have identical fingerprints. Why? Because while genes set the stage and dictate the overall style of the play, the exact details, the specific direction of every ridge, the precise placement of every tiny ridge ending or fork, called minutiae, are shaped by those unique, chaotic, microenvironmental factors in the womb. The slight variations in pressure, the exact timing of growth spurts in different parts of the fingertip, the random jostling, these minute, unpredictable events ensure that the intricate map laid down on each fingertip is unrepeatable. It's nature's ultimate combination lock, set during a brief, incredibly complex window of your earliest existence. So, what are these patterns we actually see? Fingerprints are generally classified into three main types, but within each type, there's infinite variation. The most common pattern is the loop. Loops flow in one direction, enter from one side of the finger, curve around, and exit out the same side. If the loop opens towards your thumb, it's called a radial loop. If it opens towards your pinky, it's an ulnar loop. Next, we have whorls. These look like little bullseyes or spirals. The ridges form concentric circles, often swirling around a central point. They might look like tiny whirlpools on your fingertip. Finally, the least common pattern is the arches flow from one side of the finger to the other like a gentle wave or a hill, without making any backward turns or loops. There are also tented arches, which have a sharper peak in the middle. Now, while you might have a loop on one finger and a whorl on another, the key to uniqueness isn't just which pattern type you have overall. It's the incredibly fine details within those patterns. This is where fingerprint identification gets serious. Experts look at specific points called minutiae. These are tiny, unique features along the friction ridges. The most common minutiae are a ridge ending, where a ridge simply stops dead end, and a bifurcation, where a single ridge splits into two. But there are many others, like dots, tiny isolated ridges, islands, a short ridge in the middle of two others, and spurs, a small ridge branching off the main ridge. Crucially, it's not just what minutiae are present, but where they are located, their precise orientation, the angles at which ridges meet or split, and the relative distances between all these features. Think of it like a constellation of stars. The pattern type, loop, whorl, arch, might be like recognizing the Big Dipper, but the exact brightness, position, and distance between each star in that constellation, plus any nearby unique stars, are what make it identifiable as your specific view of the Big Dipper. The sheer number of possible combinations of these minutiae is astronomical. A single fingerprint might have anywhere from 75 to 150 or more minutiae points. Even if two fingerprints shared the same overall pattern type, like both being ulnar loops, the chance that all these minutiae points, every single ridge ending, bifurcation, dot, and their exact locations and relationships would be identical on two different fingers, let alone two different people, is vanishingly small. We're talking probabilities like 1 in 64 billion or even higher. To put that in perspective, it's far less likely than winning the biggest lottery jackpot multiple times over. This immense variation is why fingerprints have been the gold standard for personal identification for over a century. Your fingerprint pattern is fixed for life once formed in the womb. While minor cuts, scrapes, or burns might temporarily damage the surface skin, the underlying ridge pattern in the deeper layers remains the same. As long as the damage isn't extremely deep and destructive, like severe scarring from third-degree burns, the original pattern will grow back. Even as your skin ages and wrinkles, the fundamental ridge structure and the unique arrangement of minutiae persist. It's a permanent biological ID card encoded in your skin. But fingerprints aren't just about identification. They serve a vital physical function too. Those ridges are perfectly designed for grip. Imagine trying to pick up a smooth, wet glass with completely smooth fingertips. It would be incredibly slippery. The friction ridges create tiny channels that help wick away sweat and moisture. We'll get to sweat in a sec, and they increase the surface area of your skin in contact with an object. This creates more friction, allowing you to grip things securely, whether it's a pencil, a rock, or your phone. The ridges are also packed with specialized nerve endings called Meissner's corpuscles. These are incredibly sensitive to light touch and vibration. The ridges amplify these sensations, giving you an exquisite sense of fine texture and detail. This is why you can feel the tiniest grain of sand or the subtle weave of fabric so acutely with your fingertips. It helps you manipulate objects with precision. The sweat aspect is crucial too. Your friction ridge skin has a high density of sweat pores, tiny openings along the tops of the ridges. Sweat constantly oozes out of these pores. This sweat serves a few purposes. It helps keep the skin on your fingertips supple. It contributes to grip by creating just the right amount of tackiness, especially when slightly damp, and critically, it leaves behind the invisible residue that forms the basis of latent fingerprints, the ones detectives look for at crime scenes. This sweat isn't just water. It contains a cocktail of salts, amino acids, proteins, and even trace amounts of oils. This unique chemical signature, combined with the unique physical ridge pattern, is what makes latent prints identifiable. Now, you might wonder about identical twins again. If they share 100% of their DNA and developed in the same womb at the same time, how come their fingerprints aren't identical? It comes back to those microenvironmental factors. Even in the shared womb, each twin occupies their own space. The pressure points on each of their developing fingers are subtly different. The exact flow of amniotic fluid around each hand, the specific timing of tiny movements, even the position relative to each other and the uterine wall, all these minute, chaotic variables differ for each twin's fingers. While their genes ensure their fingerprints will be very similar in overall pattern type, the intricate details of ridge paths and minutiae placement are sculpted by these unique, local conditions. So, even twins have distinct prints. What about serious damage? Can fingerprints be permanently changed? Superficial damage like small cuts or abrasions heals, and the ridge pattern regenerates. However, deep, destructive injuries that damage the basal layer where the ridges originate, like severe burns, deep chemical damage, or certain industrial accidents, can cause permanent scarring that alters or destroys the fingerprint pattern in that area. Diseases like leprosy or severe scleroderma can also affect the skin structure and potentially alter prints. There's even an incredibly rare genetic condition called a dermatoglyphia, where people are born without any fingerprints at all. But for the vast majority of people, the fingerprints formed in those crucial weeks before birth remain their lifelong, unique identifier. So, the next time you look at your fingertip, take a moment to appreciate the incredible complexity. Those ridges are the result of a unique biological dance between your genetic blueprint and the chaotic, microscopic environment of your earliest existence. They serve as a practical tool for grip and touch, a natural identifier so specific it can distinguish you from billions of others, and a permanent reminder of the intricate, unrepeatable journey that brought you into being. It's a tiny landscape on your skin, shaped by forces both programmed and random, making you truly one of a kind. Thanks so much for exploring this amazing detail of human biology with me today. Stay curious, appreciate your uniqueness, and take wonderful care of yourselves. See you next time.